We're back. And we're back with more of the Shacknews Awards 2023. We're talking best graphics of the year. This is a pretty stacked category with some very, very good nominations. I'm going to go through them, and then we'll get to chatting about them, and then we'll get to voting. First up, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5. Our next nominee, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Forza Motorsport, Alan Wake 2, and kind of left off of a lot of discussions this year, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. All these are great nominations, and now we're going to sing their praises. Donovan, you reviewed Spider-Man 2 for us here at Shack News, got a 10 out of 10. Can you talk about the outstanding graphics in this game?
Yeah, I mean that game is stunning. One of the now several showpieces for the PS5 hardware. It's beautiful. I believe it's the first one to not launch on PS4. I don't remember if Miles Morales launched on PS4. I think it did.
It did.
This might be this is the first one that was like fully developed, PS5 only, no restraints. And it's gorgeous. Stunning game. Down to like the suit textures and the webs
And the
and
wind.
yeah,
Like,
the wind, all the effects in that game are stunning. The water is great, and you're going across that river between to get to Brooklyn and Queens from Manhattan. It's stunning.
The liquid effects on the symbiote, I'm not sure if they could have captured that as well on the PS4 as well.
Yeah, you're right. The tentacle stuff, the dripping. Yeah. Venom is great. Venom looks amazing. The city looks great. Obviously, this is the first time we got Queens and Brooklyn in the game, which means you have the Brooklyn Bridge and like other very iconic places.
The effects with Sandman are also amazing to look at.
Yeah.
I wish, and this isn't a negative on the game, but I wish that there were more things that happened to the scale of the Sandman battle, because that happens kind of early on in the game, and some of the later boss battles may not be as big in scope.
When you get to the end, watch and see what happens to the entire city. You're going to be amazed.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know very well about that.
It's interesting because that game sets up that opening sequence like it's more like a movie. Like, your opening scene kind of shows the tone of your film. That the opening segment is the tone of the whole game, which is really interesting.
And it gets the narrative out there because you understand why Pete loses his job.
Yeah.
You really start to understand the relationship between Miles and Pete in that first scene. Yeah, it's great. And visually, it's definitely one of the most impressive games of the year, if not ever. And it just has me really excited to see Insomniac make that Wolverine game. Like, I cannot wait to see what the hell that game's going to look like, because Wolverine's ultra violent, has no problem killing people like Spider-Man does. So it's going to be interesting to see what Insomniac does next. But a very worthy nominee. We're going to keep the train going. Resident Evil 4 Remake has outstanding graphics, to no one's surprise who likes the RE engine. They've been perfecting this engine. They're working on a new version of it now. But I really do feel like everything they've been doing with RE engine was building up to this moment earlier this year when RE4 Remake dropped. TJ, you reviewed it for us. You gave it the first 10 out of 10 in the history of Shack News.
Yeah. This is an incredible game. Like, it looks gorgeous from top to bottom. Like, the environments were completely reworked. The monsters were completely reworked. David mentioned this in another category, but when you destroy either the head or a limb on a villager, you'll see like the Lost Plagas parasite, like its little tendrils sticking out of the stump and like wiggling, and it's just so creepy. Very vibrant gore. The creature design on like the later monsters, they stepped it up quite a bit. Like, some of that stuff is like, even just like the Chainsaw Man, his eyes are like bugged out and against the sack to where like it looks like the sack is the only thing keeping his head together.
Yeah.
And that's just creepy. Like, he's all bug-eyed coming after you like that. It's really creepy.
Very scary.
Um, they did an incredible job. Like everything in this game looks gorgeous. Not crazy about the water effects in the lake. I've mentioned it a few times over.
Yeah.
It's like one weirdly out of place spot in an otherwise masterpiece of visual style.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't not bring it up because it's there. But otherwise, like what a wonderful game and what a incredible step up from like what was already an amazing game.
Yeah, because graphically, when RE4 shipped on GameCube, it was one of the best looking games ever at the time. And this is still the case here. You know, we're talking about, you know, you and David did the DLC race for our Able Gamers charity stream. And I was just sitting there I played it personally on Xbox Series X here at my house, but watching David play it on our PC at the office, it's outstanding. It is visually stunning. Most of the game, I agree with you about the water. Water has been a challenge for them in the past too, with rain and other things in the RE engine and RE3 and RE2 in the past. So that's not that surprising. That's still an issue. But in a year that's this stacked, you have to bring that up. But otherwise, man, it looks amazing.
I think
and
it's
just
funny
like,
too because RE4 and the GameCube had these sections where you walked through like ankle deep, knee deep water, and then on the PS2 and the Xbox they had to remove it because the hardware couldn't handle the water. They had to remove the water from those sections.
yeah, whenever anyone gets frustrated that Nintendo doesn't have the best hardware, like spec wise, I point to GameCube because I'm like, they tried, it didn't work, and then they went full Wii on us, and the world was never same again. Was never the same again. But yeah, I think the recreation of the village, TJ, in RE4 was that first moment where my jaw dropped, and I was like, this game is different. And then, you know, things happen in the village, right? And when they do, you're like, wow, that was awesome.
Talk about doing things with the graphics that you probably couldn't possibly pull off in the original too. Like, I don't know if you've heard about the cheese that you can do in the village on New Game Plus, but you can climb up in the tower and you can see the church bell from the tower through a rifle scope, and you can shoot it and you can end the village battle early. And that is just like some attention to detail with graphical design that it could only happen now and moving forward. You couldn't do that before.
Yep.
Because the church bell is like way, the church is way far away from the village.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty impressive.
That's awesome. I did not know that you could do that. That is really cool. And yeah, there's a lot of examples of just how they vastly improved character models, weapon models, the levels. Yeah, just the monsters, or you know, Las Plagas. All of it's.
I just wanted to bring up the lighting and lighting effects and stuff like that. Like the night scenes are definitely up there as far as creep factor. And then, you know, it's like the fire effects and stuff like that.
Yes, the
Really
contrast.
immersive.
The contrast of like the dark scenes with the fire, or like how they use light in those moments. The flashlight, yeah, all of that is outstanding and like super important for a horror game, Denny. Right? Like,
you see eyes glowing in the distance and stuff like that. It's like it's creepy.
Yeah. A very good nominee. If anyone has any more to say about RE4, please do it now, or else we will move on to the next one. We are moving on to the next one. Forza Motorsport, which I believe is just the name now. They're just calling it Forza Motorsport.
Yeah, I was. I'll talk about this a little bit.
Go for it.
Because the graphics in that are out of this world. And if you haven't checked it out, or if you haven't refreshed, I would highly advise anyone who's about to vote to go to Steam and just quickly pop a trailer on, because it's in-game footage, which, boy, wow, does that game look gorgeous. Like, I know that it's a stacked year, but there's just something about that blows my mind with how graphically impressive Forza Motorsport is.
It's a realism thing. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, for a long time, there's this discussion like, when are graphics in games going to hit realism levels? I think we're there, and now we're kind of going in the uncanny valley of like trying to make things, you know, focusing more on art style than we are on realism, right? But in a racing arcadey racing sim like Forza, the attention to detail that they have on recreating various models of vehicles is always impressive. The lighting effects of how the light hits the vehicles and the different, panels, the way that the road looks depending on if it's raining or snowing or if it's, off road or whatever. Yeah, they have been perfecting that engine over there for years, and this is honestly one of the biggest showcases of Xbox Studios power right now. It looks amazing on console. It runs great on PC as well. Yeah.
And the speed, right? Because it's one
Mhm.
thing to do graphics really well. It's another thing to do them like at breakneck speeds.
Mhm.
Because oftentimes in that situation, you tend to get a lot of like blurring or pixelization or whatever, pixelation. Just because it's very tough to have incredible graphics at a high speed, and it's not to take anything away from anything else, but yeah, I was kind of blown away by how good the graphics are in this game.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot else to say, but they have been working on this for a while. I feel like Forza tends to look better than most games on Xboxes for a while, and then like towards the end of the era of the console set, it tends. I think people take it for granted, like how good it is. But yeah, a very good nominee. Who wants to talk about the graphics in Alan Wake 2?
I could definitely touch on it a little bit. And
Go for it.
PJ probably might also as well. Um, I think visually Alan Wake 2 is phenomenal, and what I really like what Remedy Entertainment does is their use of transmedia, whereby they blend real world footage of actual actors with in-game models. There was one instance where in the game you're watching live actors, and then it transitions seamlessly to you controlling one of the characters. And it was, I was like, it blew my mind because I was like, hold up, whoa, I'm actually in control now. Just because of how seamless it appeared. I actually recorded it on my Xbox as I was playing, so I'm not even playing on like my powerhouse of a PC, and it looks good on my Xbox. The lighting effects, Remedy has managed to nail visuals. Like Control was great a few years ago, but I feel like they've really leaned into a certain aesthetic and a lighting systems that they've perfected over the years. The low light level, gloomy nature of Bright Falls and the surrounding area is spooky and creepy, and the way your flashlight cuts through the darkness and illuminates things, and scatters the light around, and how the shadowy figures sort of ebb and pulse and explode as you're shining the light on them. It's just a mesmerizing game, and even when you're outside of those intense moments, each time I went back to Bright Falls and walked around the streets, I was just like, whoa, look at this. Look at the fog rolling in off the trees. Look at the slick water on the road. Even the characters, like the facial animations and how their models look, every part of it, Remedy has just knocked it out of the park.
It really operated with distortion in that game in a way that, like, even with certain monsters, makes you second guess yourself. Like there is one in the game where, like, every time I get my first look at it, I my eyes struggle to figure out what's going on, and then once I make the connection, it's like all the more alarming what you're looking at.
It's
And
that
then
Lovecraftian horror element as well, where it's like your brain is kind of can't quite figure out.
you're right. And like just the use of light and darkness in that game as both mechanics and graphical effects is pretty impeccable. Like there's so much distortion that can only be fixed by using the light in the game. And then there's just like the elements of like when when you get to a scene with Alan Wake and you get to rewrite that scene with another element from like something you've discovered elsewhere in the game, and like you see this overlay of him like putting a new page in the typewriter and rewriting it, and then that scene just adjusts to what he wrote in real time. That's like some magic to me. It's crazy to see everything shift as the game plays out, and how reality just like distorts when you change the story. And like that's the kind of thing like where if this was like old school systems, if we were on regular hard drives, you'd probably need a loading screen to make that happen, and it just happens as you're playing here, and it's cool.
Yeah, running through Alan Wake 2, I feel like I had moments like I'm like, you know what? I would not be surprised if it becomes a full film or a TV series or something in the near future, just with how much of that felt like film level kind of quality with transitions and stuff like that. Definitely super immersive.
It feels like they were able to do things in this Alan Wake that just when that first one came out were impossible. So this level of manipulating the story and how that affects the environment is just extremely unique, especially in this year when you look at it compared to the other nominees in this category. They're doing stuff that no one else has really done or is doing, and that's cool. That's innovative, and that's definitely unique. Our last nominee in this category is Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. TJ, you reviewed this game, right?
I love everything about the visuals of Armored Core 6 so very much. Hey, building your own robot and making it look as cool as possible is just, they put in all the options. And I'm talking about like not just putting a weapon or some legs or some cool arms on your mech, but like going in, creating a custom paint job, creating like adjusting the weathering, adjusting the metal style, the gloss, the sheen, and then fiddling with things like, and then taking it into the mission. The more you use that mech throughout a mission, the more like you see the scratches, you see the paint tear on it. Like when you fire a bazooka, you see the speckled like paint wear from where the rockets were coming out on the end of the barrel, and that happens over time in the mission. And then you have just like these epic grandiose backdrops where like there's a mission where you start at the bottom, like in a field from a dam, and there's a giant mech on top of the dam shooting artillery down at at like armies that are advancing on the dam. And during the course of that mission, you travel all the way up to the dam, travel all the way up to the top, and fight that mech that you saw blasting things like at the beginning of the mission. And just the scope of it all in action, like seeing this war play out before you and then engaging and then coming full circle to fighting that thing, which the mech itself is a giant tank that drops landmines all over the place as it goes. It's just amazing. It's like everything I would want out of a mech game, everything I would want visually, functionally, mechanically. It's beautiful to look at, it's beautiful in motion, and there's so much customization you can do to make it all the more beautiful.
This game really feels like it got overlooked this year, and I think it's because it's really fucking hard. Is that accurate?
That is very accurate. It's the kind of game where like you'll throw yourself into a mission and get absolutely crumpled like a tin can, and you have to go back and you have to figure out what parts you can get your hands on to make that mission work for you.
Yeah,
It's a
also
different
niche
kind of hard than
series, and if you're not a mech like genre fan, it might not resonate with you as well. Sorry,
Sure.
Ozzy, what were you saying?
Yeah, go ahead, Ozzy.
I was saying, like, it's a different kind of hard than the Soulsborne games. Like, the missions are a lot more linear, but like, it still kicks your ass. Only you just have to now go about things a little differently than you would in a standard From Software game.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
I like that the answer is always buy better weapons.
Shoot it with bigger rocket.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. This is the Tears of the Kingdom combat style. Put a bigger rock on your stick and hit them with it.
Mhm.
No, it's great. I think this game deserves a little bit more praise than it's gotten this year. I think it just kind of came and went, and it's just a lot of the Souls fans didn't like it, from what I could tell, because it's different. But anyone who knows the Armored Core series, like this is a return, a huge comeback for this series because they made a very good one after Armored Core 5 wasn't really well received at all. So yeah, I think it's a very good nomination. It sticks out in this list of nominees. It's very unique in its art style. It's important to note before we vote, this is not about art style here. This is about graphics. This is about the impressiveness of the visuals given what hardware they're running, lighting effects. I think we've mentioned a lot of these different things in the various conversations here. But just folks at home, understand that we are going to do a best art style category that does have very different nominees in it. But I will say that I like the art style Armored Core 6 a lot.
Yeah.
It is cool as hell.
Yeah.
Let's vote. What do you guys say?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Steve? I'll start with you.
I'm going with Armored Core.
Nice. Sam?
I got to stick with Alan Wake 2.
Okay. Bill?
Forza Motorsport.
Oh boy. I'm saying oh boy because so far we have, some diverse votes. Ozzy.
Spider-Man.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. TJ.
This is the one where I have to go hard on Armored Core. This is the one that I love the most as far as visuals.
Okay. Armored Core 6. Greg.
Alan Wake 2.
Oh boy. I'm gonna wait. Donovan.
Alan Wake 2.
Denny.
And I kind of want to go with TJ, but I'm going to lean into Alan Wake 2 as well.
Okay. David was kind enough to give me his vote for this category. He voted, unsurprisingly, for Resident Evil 4. Which means my vote doesn't matter, but if I were going to vote in this category, I think I also would have voted for Alan Wake 2. Because what you're talking about and what is done in that game, how they use that narrative mechanic to change the real world in real time, those visuals are extremely impressive. The systems behind it have to be incredibly intricate. And I think it's just like, it's kind of magical. There's something magical about how that game feels when you're in those when you're experiencing that mechanic specifically, that I think really differentiates it this year. But yeah, all of these games have great graphics, so we recommend you try them all out. And congratulations to all the nominees, but sadly there can only be one winner of this Shacknews Award. The best graphics of 2023 go to Alan Wake 2.